Hey Brand Bombers, it's Miss Morel, and today we are kicking off chapter number 7. So we are about halfway through the material that we need to learn. We'll go probably a little bit slower of a pace through the last half of the chapter. And so we are going to kick off ionic compounds and metals. So here are the different sections to this chapter. There are 4 different sections that we will dig into. So we have some objectives and some review vocabulary, which is octet rule. So if you'll remember that, that means that all of our elements, they would like to bond in order to gain, lose, or share electrons in order to have full valence shells, which is almost always 8 valence electrons. All right, so let's take a look at this. So a chemical bond is the force that holds 2 atoms together. So when we have 2 atoms stuck together, this is called a chemical bond. So they form an attraction between the positive nucleus of one atom and the negative electrons of another. And so that's what pulls them together. Atoms, they try to form that octet. So that was one of our review vocabularies. So this is a stable arrangement of 8 valence electrons in order to have full shells of electrons. So that right there is kind of the main concept in all of chemistry. Whenever we're talking about chemistry and we're talking about bonding, we're talking about that full valence shell. So next we're going to talk about a positively charged ion is called a cation. And so a cation, we find them on our periodic table. So if you guys look on your orange periodic tables, at the top where you see it say +1, +2, +3, and +4, these are positively charged, which means that they are cations. And so all of the elements in that column or that group or family, these are cations. All right, so metals are on the left-hand side of the periodic table. These are elements that are reactive because they like to lose their electrons, and so electrons are negative. So if we lose something that's negative, we become more positive. Just like if we're carrying around a burden, something negative in ourselves, if we are able to get rid of that some way, then we become more positive. Our world becomes lighter and it's more balanced, just like what we see happen with electrons. So when we see these metals, they like to give away electrons, and that's how they become the +1, +2, and +3 charges. And so by getting rid of them, that allows them to become positively charged. So transition metals, that's our middle group here, they like to give away electrons also. And so they commonly form +2 and +3 ions. And on our periodic table, we can actually see a little tiny subscript where our periodic table tells us what charges they frequently form. So for example, on titanium, element number 22, if you look in the upper right-hand corner, you can see +2, +3, and +4. So it's kind of handy, our periodic table. All right, an anion, this is the opposite. So this is negatively charged. So this is the right side of our periodic table. So the ones with a negative number up top. And so a really good example is chlorine. So chlorine we'll recognize from like sodium chloride. This is what forms salt. And so it's negatively charged. And so it likes to bond with something positively charged. So nonmetals, that's the right side of the periodic table, and they like to gain electrons in order to fulfill that 8. So when you're like chlorine or fluorine and you have 7 valence electrons and the goal is to get to 8, it completely makes sense just to gain 1 electron versus to try and get rid of 7. So it's finding that balance. So again, if you have 7 valence electrons, it makes sense to get 1, and that's exactly what we see the halogens do. So some nonmetals can gain or lose electrons, but for the most part, we will see them just gaining electrons to become a complete octet. So just some fun ways to remember this. Cats are good, positive. Onions are bad or negative. Here's another way. This is an ion. She's unhappy and negative. This is a cation, and you always draw it with its positive eyes. And he's a plusy cat. See how he has the plus signs in his eyes? This is a cation, so he has a plus sign for his nose. An anion kind of sounds like an iron. And so you can see the minus signs there. So those are just some fun ways. Here's another cation and an antion. Here's a cation, and it says an anion with positive charge, the cutest ion ever. It's like a little Valentine. And then this is the last one. It says, what did the cation say to the anion? Don't be so negative, because anions are negative. All right, just one quick question. Oxygen gains 2 electrons to form what kind of ion? And so if something gains 2 electrons, electrons are negative, what charge would it have? And so hopefully you come up with a 2 negative charge, so a -2 charge because it gained 2 of something that's negative. All right, you guys, that's all I have for today. Hopefully you find this helpful, and have an awesome day. Take good care. Come see me if you have any questions at all. Bye, you guys.